that there is a human being inside of each of these cars, inside the helmet and the coveralls and the gloves. Rick Mears is such a one, the man who sits on the pole here, the man who will be diving first perhaps into turn one, and he's a very human being, believe me. When Rick Mears won this year's pole position with a new track record, it was a high point in a career which has been defined by extremes, a series of high highs and low lows. It started spectacularly. A win at Indy in 1979 in only his second try. Then, 2 years later, near tragedy, a fire during a pit stop, invisible flames burning Rick's face, his wife with him here, and his father, who put out the flames. The following year, helpless frustration, the loss to Gordon Johncock in the closest finish ever in the 500. That close. Then, winning Indy for the second time in '84, he put his name among the legends of the Brickyard and was seemingly at the peak of his career when disaster struck. During practice at a track near Montreal, Rick had spotted a gap in traffic, tried to dive through it, and miscalculated. Injuries to his legs and to his feet. They were serious and posed the question of whether he'd ever walk again. As for his career, it came to a total halt. In December, 4 months after the crash, with his divorce from his first wife pending, Rick passed his 33rd birthday in casts and in constant pain. With Chris Bowen, his new girl, at his side and his own limitless optimism, Rick began to rebuild his life. Sam caught up with him in late April of last year at his new home outside Reading, Pennsylvania. His first steps had been just 2 weeks before. His walk was uncertain, but not his determination to race at Indy. And remarkably, he did race at Indy. Still shaky and surrounded by doubt, he managed to qualify 10th, but because of a mechanical problem, was unable to prove that he could finish the race. Mears was back, but slowly. The doubts persisted through the summer until almost exactly a year after the accident, Rick put himself back in the winner's circle at a 500-mile race, Pocono in Pennsylvania. Today his feet aren't fully recovered and they may never be. They still hurt, but not as much. Now he's again the favorite to win, a position in which he never doubted he'd find himself.
I never had a doubt. I don't think there was ever any time. That's like I had somebody ask me the other day if there was ever any doubt in my mind that I'd be able to walk again, you know. When right after it first happened. You know, like I told them, I said, as soon as I saw my feet were on the end of my legs, it wouldn't matter if they were just a couple of nubs. I'd have figured out how to walk on them, one way or another. And so there was never any doubt I'd walk again. There was never any doubt I'd run again. There was never any doubt I'd run hard again. The only doubt that I ever had was when.
The child's drawing hanging in his garage, the only decoration on the wall, seems to be a symbol of new beginnings, of better days ahead, of trying your best all the time.
Sam, we are by no means the only reporters who continue to talk and write a great deal about the effects of those 1984 injuries on Mears. To what degree do you still think they're a part of his makeup?
Well, you know, it's often said in racing that when a driver has a bad crash, it seasons him somehow and makes him tougher. And when I went to see Rick that day, which was 8 months after the crash, and the first day that he was to walk without the aid of crutches or a cane, I wondered how different a man I'd find from the man I had known before. I found the same man, absolutely unchanged, to my delight. I think that that crash represented a segment out of Rick Mears' life. But the moment he was fit to race again, he resumed exactly where he left off.
Now, Danny Sullivan is one of many who've been quoted as saying that Rick Mears is the greatest of all oval track racers. How do you assess his talent?
You know, in this sport, there are a lot of people that come and go, and each year seems to bring a new crop of people that promise to be maybe the next A.J. Foyt. Well, let me tell you this. I believe that it is significant in every way that when Rick Mears first won the Indianapolis 500, and only his second try, that the man he beat was A.J. Foyt. I think the eras have changed, and I think that when the dust settles on this era of automobile racing, that Rick Mears will have rewritten the record books. and that A.J. Foyt's name will have been supplanted by Rick's.
Well, what ingredients exactly are we talking about? I mean, the layman might look at this and say, hey, what is there in it other than having the courage to continue turning left at a higher speed than somebody else? What is it that Foyt and now Mears have that others don't have?
Something, right? Because they keep coming to the surface and the other guys don't. And God knows anybody wants to win this race. And yet these are the men that are able to do it. I think it is a combination of some enormous desire to win. I once asked Cale Yarborough, another great champion, Cale, what makes you better than the other guys? Thinking he might talk about his eyesight or his reflexes or something. And he said, Sam, I think it's that God gave me more desire than the next man. I think that Rick, despite his casual demeanor, you know, A.J. telegraphs that desire, doesn't it? Rick doesn't, but it is there, and it burns incredibly brightly.